Good morning, Dragons, and welcome to Activity 4.1 Solution Set, using equations to solve problems. So, I put this in a Google form for you, and I asked you to put just a number response, like a numeral response. If you put the units or you put your equation, it will mark it wrong. The form only allows so many solution styles. So, if the answer was 5 grams, and I ask for a number response only, what I'm looking for is just 5. That's what I'm looking for in your Google form. Now, right now, I'm going to go over all the solutions with you, and I have opened up the assignment so that you can go back and make corrections. So if you're watching this video, this could be an easy aid for you. I understand that these have been very challenging problems, and I want you to experience success because algebra is very important for your academic career. Write and solve an equation for each problem. Show your work and label your answers. Describe the strategy used to determine each solution. So you did not have to get into all your behind-the-scenes thinking in your Google form. You just had to give me the number response, but I can give you some of the behind-the-scenes now in the video. Raul's sister is 6 years older than he is. What is Raul's age if Raul's sister is 19 years old? So I need some variables here. So I've got R could be Raul's age. And the sister could be S. But I hate using S, so I'm just going to use X. The reason I hate using S, even though it makes sense in the context of the problem, is it looks like my 5. And I confuse my own writing, my 5 and my S's, I confuse them. So, Raul's sister is 6 years older than he is. So the sister equals Raul plus 6. What is Raul's age if the sister is 19? If the sister is 19, and it's Raul plus 6, now we have a really spot-on equation where we can isolate the variable and solve for Raul's age. So right now we have to use the inverse operation to get R, Raul's age, alone. So I need to get 6 away from R. And if I do that to one side, I need to do that to the other side. That's kind of like using that subtraction property of equality. So 13 will equal R. Now, what would you put on your Google form? When you go back and you submit, what I need you to write is just 13. That's how you'll get this right. I don't want 13 years. I don't want 13 decimal zero. Just 13 will be perfect. Good, next. Number 2, approximately 1/10 of the mass of a medium-sized apple is sugar. What is the approximate mass of a medium-sized apple that contains 19 grams of sugar? So we can have A equal the mass of an apple. And we could have G equal grams of sugar in the apple. So the sugar, the grams of sugar, is going to be 1/10 of whatever the mass of the apple is. It tells me that I have 19 grams. And the 19 grams is going to be 1/10 A, the mass of the apple. So now I need to isolate the variable. I have a fractional coefficient. We studied these last week. I can multiply by 10 over 1 on this side to make that create 1, which means I can multiply by 10 over 1 on that side. By doing so, I've got basically 10 times 19, which is 190. 190 will equal A. A represents the mass of the apple. What would this be in your Google form? On your Google form, I would want you to type in only 190. Oscar made brownies for his class. He tripled the recipe he normally uses. If he made 36 brownies for his class, how many brownies does his original recipe make? So R could be the number of brownies one recipe makes. C could be the number of brownies for the class. For the class, he needed 3 times the recipe. He made 36 brownies by doing 3 times the recipe. How do we isolate this? We use the inverse operation. 3 is attached to R using multiplication, so I'm going to use division to undo the multiplication. That becomes 1R, which is really just the same as R. And 36 divided by 3 is 12. 12 brownies. So one recipe would make 12 brownies, 2 recipes would make 24 brownies, and 3 recipes would make 36 brownies for Oscar's class. In your Google form, your solution should say 12. Next. In June of 2016, for every 20 total emails a person received, they could expect to get 11 spam emails. If a person received 300 spam emails in 1 month, how many total emails did they receive? All right, I've looked over this question repeatedly because my interpretation of the question does not match the interpretation provided in the answer key. So I've allowed for 2 different answers to be permissible here. In my mind, I saw a ratio. I saw that you get 11 spam for every 20 total. And instead of a traditional equation like we've been working with, I set up a ratio style. So basically I set up a proportion, which is an equation. And it says you had 300 spam. So how many total? When I worked on this before, I saw that 11/20 of my grand total is 300. To solve this, I did times 20 over 11 times 20 over 11. Which got me T equals 6,000 over 11. And when I did the math and got 6,000 over 11, I ended up with about 545 total emails. That was one interpretation. So I would accept this answer. But according to the answer key, their interpretation was this. They said X is the number of spam emails. And that T is the total of emails. And that the spam is equal to 11 over 31 of the total. Now, where are they getting that 31? They added 11 plus 20. This is not how I interpreted it, which is why I'm accepting the alternate answer as well. So there are two possible solutions here, depending on interpretation. So in order to get this to work out, X is representing the spam emails, and they're saying, hey, you've got 300 of those. And the ratio in which this occurs is 11 out of 31 times the total. It's the total we're looking for. So, hey, I got 300 spam. This is the rate it happens at. I need to know the total. Right now, these things are connected using multiplication. I can divide. So I can either put a big division thing here and do 11 over 31, or I can multiply by the reciprocal, which will create the exact same effect. 11 over 31 times 31 over 11 creates 1. You just have to be fair. So what happens now? This reverses the effect of that. T for total is left alone. Now I just need 300 times 31 divided by 11. And I worked all that out earlier, took up quite a bit of space. So for time's sake, I'm just going to use the calculator. 300 times 31 divided by 11 would get you approximately, I'm rounding here, 845 emails. The reason I'm rounding is you can't get a portion of an email. It's not going to happen. So on your Google form for number 4, you could have written 545 like I did, or you could have written 845 like they did in the book. So, you have two choices depending on interpretation. I really didn't want to add the 2 because it already told me the word total here. That's where I got mixed up. Number 5. In Jadenstown, the middle school has 443 more students than the high school. If the middle school has 817 students, how many students are at the high school? All right, we'll make M for middle school students. We'll do H for the number of high school students. So H equals the middle school plus 443. No, I think I said that backwards. Let me try that again. Middle school equals 443 plus the number of high school students, because the middle school has 443 more students than high school. 443 more than high school. So 443 plus the number of high school would result in the middle school. They're saying, hey, the middle school has 817. Can you work backwards and figure out what the high school must have had? You can. It's possible. So if the middle school has 817 students, and we know that the high school plus 443 gets you the middle school number, we can solve for high school here. It's attached using addition, so we're going to use the inverse operation, which is subtraction. I'm going to subtract 443 on both sides. That's going to leave h alone, which we want because this makes 0. So then we get 817 minus 443, which is 374 high school students. What would your Google form say? 374. That's all you would type. One more. The average height of an ostrich, the tallest bird, is 121 inches. The average height of a bee hummingbird, the smallest bird, is 2 75/100 inches. How many times taller is the ostrich than the bee hummingbird? I made x equal the ratio. I actually did this quite differently than the textbook did, and I think my way is slightly easier, so I'm going to use my way so as not to confuse you. The ratio of how many times taller. What does that mean? That means the hummingbird times x, whatever x is worth, can result in the height of the ostrich. It wouldn't make sense in reverse unless we were trying to shrink, but it wants to know how many times taller is the ostrich than the hummingbird. Well, the hummingbird times something can get me to the size of the ostrich. How do I undo this? What operation do I need? Currently they're being multiplied, so in order to isolate the variable, you have to divide. 2.75 over 2.75 actually creates 1, so you would have 1x, which is just x. $121 divided by 2 75/100 is 44. So in your Google form, your answer is 44. Now, for the sake of time, I did not work out every single multiplication and division step with you. I do want you to know, though, I did earlier. I did all this work earlier by hand to prove that it can be done. So I don't want you to think I'm shortcutting stuff. I'm not. But for the video, I did not want it to last more than 20 minutes for you. So there you go. I hope this helps clarify any misunderstandings you had along the assignment. I hope you can see how equations can lead to actual interesting information that applies to the problem. And feel free to go back, resubmit for a better grade. Thank you, Dragons.